Hey guys, Ted with Minute of Man. You may have noticed it's been quite a minute since we put out our last video. Me and Clint both have been kind of selling off a bunch of equipment, saving up for night vision and whatnot. So there's going to be kind of a turn in our content. We're going to be going a lot towards sort of night content and stuff once we get multiple cameras, still saving up for like an Aurora. But here's kind of our entry into the night vision world, at least the passive aiming. We do have a couple of lasers to play with, but so far I think 3 of us have purchased all the Holosun LS321, so really not a good comparison there. But at least passive, we have a few budget red dots. There is quite a price disparity in these from the Sig Romeo up to the Holosun AEMS. Now this is the AEMS core model that does not have the solar panel, it does not have the flip down caps or the circle dot, it's just the 2 MOA dots, so that does save some money. So you're looking market value at $300 compared to a Romeo 5, which you can get for $120. But also keep in mind, a Romeo 5 comes with an absolute co-witness mount, so you're really going to need to buy an aftermarket mount anyways to get a 1/3 or higher co-witness. And then the second cheapest dot is the Primary Arms 30mm red dot, which is their basic Aimpoint Pro clone. And that one comes in at $130. But once again, it doesn't come with a mount. You could do like a regular 30mm scope ring mount. What I've chosen to do, I went with the QRP2 mount, which is the Aimpoint mount, the ratcheting system. So that was $50 on tax swap. So most of these after a mount, if you get something like a American Defense mount or something ratcheting, like a Scalar Works or something with the Romeo 5 and the Holosun 403, you're going to add another $80 to $150 on top of it. So for the most part, all of these come in somewhere between 200 up to 300 once you get a 1/3 mount, because the Holosun AIMS being $299 comes with a 1/3 co-witness already, and it's kind of like it's a pretty good, it's a ratcheting method, so it's fixed pretty good. So we're just going to compare kind of all these mid $200 red dots just for their passive aiming ability, their light transmission, as well as like reticle brightness and a few other things like distortion, which is what I'm trying to show when I kind of point them up to the stars and wiggle them a little bit. A few things to note that might be kind of hard to pick up on. So the Romeo 5 and the 403R have fairly similar light transmission, maybe a little bit better on the Holosun. But the Romeo 5, you can see it in both of them where it kind of has like a refraction from the back lens where it's actually showing like ambient light that's behind you, whether it be the moonlight or if there's like a lamp on in the house kind of stuff. Those have very, very poor reflection to where you're getting kind of a glare in that back lens. The Romeo 5, even on its lowest settings, not really night vision capable. The Primary Arms 30mm, I actually have a sample size of 2. I do have a second one that's on like a Car 15 carry handle build, and that one's an older serial number. I wish I would have taken it off and looked at it before I did this video. But the first one that I've had for a little over a year, really good light transmission, but the reticle doesn't quite get bright enough. It's usable on dark nights, but when it gets bright, it's kind of washed out. The one in the video is a newer manufacturer. I actually just got that this month. That one actually does have sufficient brightness under night vision and the same light transmission. So I would like to reach out to Primary Arms and just see if they did do a change in the emitter. But at least the newer ones they're making do have good light transmission, do have a good reticle brightness. The Romeo 5 as well as the 403R both are kind of disappointing in terms of their light transmission. But I have noticed if you kind of mount them a little further back or you choke up on the gun and get the tube closer, you can kind of block out that glare from behind you, as well as just the auto gating will kind of turn up the brightness to where the light transmission is still terrible, but you can actually get a usable image out of it. And I think you'll see that more with the 403R on the darker night, where I pull it closer to the lens and you actually can see through it fairly effectively. Or I think I might have done that on the brighter night. I don't know. But the Romeo 5 and the 403R are both kind of capable of that if you choke up on the gun. I still don't think either of them are really night vision optics. But more so it is nice to have, if you have like a laser in the front of your gun, just to have a Romeo 5 or a 403R on a 193 to be able to look over the laser. It's still nice. Just as kind of a backup option, you can still choke up on it, and on a bright enough night, you can still use it as a passive aiming method. I wouldn't recommend it. I was actually very surprised with the Primary Arms. Like I said, I had it on a Car 15 build originally. I looked through it, and when I saw the light transmission was really good, I was kind of just blown away. It wasn't anything I intended on being a night vision optic, but once I looked through it, I ordered another for a kind of pseudo Mark 18 build. and that one ended up having a better emitter that was actually really good with night vision. So just looking at this, there is a darker night where I'll show all 4, and then it wasn't really a brighter night. It was a slightly better moon, but it was like 9:15. It was still, what do they call it, EENT, the end evening nautical twilight. So there was still some light where the sun had already gone down 20 minutes earlier, but some of it's still bending over the horizon, so the clouds were a little illuminated. So really trying to give the optics kind of the best shake possible, and you can still see the Romeo 5 and the 403R are not great at all. But like I said, once I bring them closer to the tube, the actual PVS 14, it does illuminate quite well, and you can actually still see through it and get a usable image. That being said, all of these budget red dots, even the AIMS, which has remarkable light transmission and good reticle brightness, I still prefer the laser, mostly just because all of these, except for the 403R, which I do have on a 193 mount, all of them are 1/3 co-witness. Not all that comfortable with night vision. It's doable, certainly better than the absolute co-witness that the Romeo 5 comes with. But I still prefer even a civilian laser over a, passive aiming solution. Because sometimes they're shadow, and regardless of what your light transmission is, you still wouldn't be able to point in and identify, something like that. But this is just a few budget options. I would like to test a few more of the sort of T2-esque clones, like the Primary Arms has their MD20, which is just a 20mm red dot. It's basically an Aimpoint T2, T1 clone, something like that. Takes all the same mounts, as well as like Vortex and stuff. I'd like to give those a shake just to see how they do. But I'm probably not going to purchase them to test them under night vision. It's more so just if I come into contact with someone who's running that, I'd be like, hey, could I by any chance check that out after dark, see what it looks like, and if it's good, then I would purchase one for myself. Probably get a riser mount for the AIMS, because that does seem to be the clear winner as far as light transmission and reticle brightness and everything. Is the most usable. And then the Primary Arms, if you're looking to get into a budget red dot, assuming they actually did have an emitter change, and that's why the new one I bought is so much better, I would not hesitate to recommend that and just get like an aftermarket Aimpoint mount like that QPR2. A bunch of people are doing factory takeoffs. Just look on TaxSwap. I mean, they're $50 to $70 all day. You can get those. So, $130 red dot plus $50. I mean, you're looking at a sub $200, very capable passive aiming capability, and a ratcheting QD, takeoff, so that you can just take it off, put it back on. You could try different, red dots if you wanted to. If you've got a 403R or Romeo 5, something like that, you could take them off, put them back on, try it out, see what you like, and then leave whichever one you like. But just keep this in mind. We'll probably get some content coming out soon as we can get an Aurora, a Psionics Aurora, just be able to actually video some stuff. We've got some occluded shooting under night vision and whatnot, using a monocular, just kind of things that we're trying to test out. Short and long of that, you actually can shoot night sights under night vision without having to kind of use the blob of the tritium. You can actually kind of do an occluded shooting from your right eye to your left eye. There's some distortion. There's a lot of caveats with that. It's not all that effective. I would not recommend it, but it's possible. So we'll be doing some content on that. So just look for some night vision content that'll probably be coming out soon, and enjoy this comparison.